Today we're learning about word problems with fractions. Here's our first problem. Brad is eating pizza for dinner. He cuts his pizza into 4 equal pieces. What fraction represents each piece of the pizza? Well, when I read a word problem, I first try to imagine what's happening. In this problem, our character Brad is eating a pizza. But before he eats the pizza, he cuts it into 4 pieces. We want to know what fraction we can use to represent each of these pieces. Well, the first thing I think about is that there's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces in this pizza. The total number of pieces in a whole, that's the denominator of our fraction. So the denominator must be 4. So what fraction represents each piece of pizza? Well, each piece is 1 piece, or 1/4 of the entire pizza. This piece is 1/4, this piece is 1/4, this piece is also 1/4. Each piece of the pizza is 1/4 of the whole. Now let's practice a problem together. Becky is making a blanket. Becky uses 8 equal-sized pieces of cloth to make her blanket. What fraction represents each piece of the blanket? Just like any word problem, our first task is to understand what's happening. Which of these is the best description of what's happening in this problem? In this problem, Becky is taking 8 pieces of cloth and putting them together to make a blanket. We need to know what fraction represents each piece of that blanket. Well, how many total pieces of cloth are in the whole blanket? There are 8 pieces of cloth in this blanket. You can read that in the problem, or you can count up the 8 pieces in the picture we've made. Where should the number 8 go in my fraction? Remember, the total number of pieces is the denominator, so 8 is our denominator. Now, if we think about each of these pieces individually, what fraction can represent each piece of fabric? Well, each of these pieces is just 1 piece. Therefore, every single piece of fabric is 1/8 of the blanket. The fraction 1/8 represents each piece. Here's another problem to practice with. Jack goes on a 3-mile run. What fraction represents each mile of the run? Again, we'll start by imagining this problem. Jack is starting here and is running. How far does Jack run? We can see in the problem, Jack is running 3 miles. He runs 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles. Now we need to figure out what fraction represents each mile of that run. We need to use a fraction to describe each of these different pieces. What fraction can we use to represent these pieces? Well, there are a total of 3 pieces in this run, so the denominator of our fraction is 3. And each of these miles represents one of those pieces, so 1/3. In this problem, each mile represents 1/3 of the run. Now it's time for you to practice on your own. Melanie's dad is baking some cookies. To help out, Melanie cuts a stick of butter into 6 equal pieces. What fraction represents each piece of butter? In this problem, Melanie's cutting a stick of butter into 6 different pieces. We need to find the fraction to represent each piece. Now, because the butter is in a total of 6 pieces, our denominator is 6. Then each piece represents just one of those pieces. So we could represent each piece of butter with a fraction 1/6. Now here's your last problem for this video. Jackson is building a tower with blocks. He stacks 4 blocks on top of each other. What fraction of the tower does each block represent? In this problem, we can imagine Jackson stacking 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks on top of each other. Because the tower has a total of 4 pieces, it means our denominator is 4. Then each piece represents one of those pieces, so each block of the tower is just 1/4. Now you know how to solve word problems with fractions. Great work!